Hi everyone, my name is Ed Beck and I'm an instructional designer at SUNY Oneonta. So part of my job is teaching both faculty and students how to use WordPress or programs that extend on WordPress related to things higher ed. And I'm doing the all things media full site editing program exploration. So what I have here is a brand new WordPress site that I installed just for this. I do have some plugins installed on here, but I don't think they're anything that would interfere with my images, just some things that Installatron automatically installs with our WordPress setup. But this is a relatively clean WordPress that I'm starting from, and I'm just going to try to follow along in the directions and give you an idea of what I'm thinking about and what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So it looks like the first thing that I'm being asked to do is to create a post and create a image block or a cover block with a duotone filter on it. I'm just gonna go out and find a image that I can use for this. And I know that you want to talk about where we find images, so we'll come back to that later on. So I've got a image of a road here. And one of the things that you'd like me to do is to apply a duotone filter to that. I don't use duotone filters very often, so this is a little bit new for me. I like the interface, that it gives me some ideas that I can work with. I'm wondering why I can't just click here and change the color to that. I guess I can, but I have to double click. So that's a little odd to me. I wonder why I don't have access to my theme colors here. It might be helpful for people that don't memorize hex codes or know hex codes off the top of their head. If there were just at least a couple colors that they could pick on, some frequently used colors, especially if that was transferred from the theme. And then the ability, of course, to pick a very specific color if you already know the hex code. But that seems kind of nice. Oh, here that is. So that's available if I come here to the shadows, but not available if I double click here on the icon. So this is my first time using this, and you can see that I'm fumbling around with it because of that a little bit. But this interface right here is a little bit nicer than the one above, and I wonder how that could be used all the time. Yeah, that's nice. That right there. And then I can pick my other color. Okay. And then that's not bad. That's pretty easily done. And I can adjust. I have spent some time working with overlays, so I feel pretty comfortable messing with the opaqueness, the opacity, though it doesn't look particularly good when I did that, so I'm going to need to adjust that filter to look a little bit nicer. But that seems pretty easy right in there. The only feedback that I would give would just be, how do I pick the color here? Because you saw me fumble around by that. So the next task I'm being asked to do is to go into the full site editing interface and add an image to the background of the header. So we'll go back to the full blog and I'll click on Edit Site. Okay. I haven't spent too much time with the full site editor. I have spent a little bit of time, but I'm going to try to find the template part. And this theme has 3 separate header files that they've created. So that is in itself a little bit of a challenge. I'm not sure what they mean by header small, large, whether that's a device thing or whether that's just the length of their header. But I'm just going to go ahead and delete out everything that they've got in their header, because when I read the directions, what I assume you meant was that you wanted to create a header similar to Penn State's here, and with an image in the background and then your menu overlaying that. So I'm going to assume that's what you want, not just a header that could be behind there. So I'm going to insert before and put in my cover. And I'm going to make this cover, I'm not seeing the ability to make it full width. I'll use that same road image that I had used before, and I will make this, it's not letting me make it full width, so I'm seeing that black around the edges. Let me get it, here's the problem, I'm inside that group. Let me get it out of the group. Okay. Much better, but that might have been confusing. I've learned when I'm using the block editor that I have to really use this list view, otherwise I get stuck. And so that was a challenge for me right there, but I knew how to get myself out of trouble there. Now I wonder, since I have this cover already here, if I can just pull this group in here to be able to put the image and the blog title and my navigation all inside that header. Now, I'm still trying to understand rows. I'm not sure why this has not continued to be all in its same row, why this is the navigation is coming down underneath that. So that's something that I still don't understand, and a challenge that I found dealing with headers. I found it to be very difficult to manipulate headers in full site editing, to get them look exactly the way I want. And one of the challenges is things creating a new line. Now I'm looking at this, and this row, it's already in a block called a row, so that should be on the same line as this, I think. But this is one of the reasons why I'm avoiding full site editing for now, is making the header the way I want to has seemed to be a little bit of a challenge. Well, that's that challenge, and I'm going to keep moving on. And see, I don't understand here also, why am I modifying 2 template parts, both the header and the header dark and large? That's not clear to me, why there's 2 templates being updated from my 1 edits. And again, this is the kind of thing that I have to explore more with full site editing. So I'm going to go out of here one more time and start to create a post. We'll just edit my Hello World post. And we would like to add a caption to an image. This is going to be very boring for you because I'm going to use the same image again. And adding a caption isn't hard. Okay. Crop or rotate an image in a gallery block. So I'll go ahead and I will convert this image into a gallery, and let's go ahead and find at least a second image for me to use. I'm gonna go with the road theme. Oh, that one's cool. Now, I'm on Flickr, and this is not a copyright-free image. Um, it said bonus points to show us where we would get copyright-free images. And part of my role in my college is supporting open education. And I've been having a hard time showing people where to go for openly licensed images because things keep changing in this landscape. Even Google here, where I'm searching for a road and I've filtered for Creative Commons licenses, it's going to show me things that are not Creative Commons licensed. The Pixabay doesn't use Creative Commons license anymore. They use their Pixabay license, which is a pretty open license. It says it's free for commercial use. But when I filtered on Google, it actually said the words Creative Commons license. And so that's a little bit different to me as someone that cares about licensing. And so I've been advising my students not to go to Google to look for their photos anymore, partly to avoid the confusion. Partly to avoid the confusion that can happen with these multiple different boutique licenses. So the task you're asking me to do is crop or rotate this image. So I'm going to crop that right here. I'll rotate it as well at the same time, even though this image doesn't make sense anymore, just to satisfy the requirements. Yeah. And so, I think the Openverse is a great place to search for openly licensed images. It's coming right along. One thing that I've noticed, just as I've, helped students, is once in a while the license text doesn't come up in full, the attribution text, and so sometimes you have to reload the page to get that. And it's not going to happen while I'm doing this for you because the demo gods hate me. But I will go ahead and get this image as a non-copyrighted image. And I'm going to go ahead and bring it back in to that featured image setting. And you want me to change the size of my featured image. I don't know that I know how to do that. Oh, change it in my posts template. Okay, I think I can do that then. Okay, so I'm here trying to edit the size of my featured image by editing my query. So I have been messing with the query loop. And that seems okay. that I can edit the height of this or edit the shape of this. And I like that I have these different scale options here that I can do. I wonder if I could edit the focus of these images if I was going to use something like cover. Could I somehow let it know where the most important part of the cover image was elsewhere where it is done, and where I could possibly do that? I'm not sure that I can, but if I was going to be editing my the if I was going to do exactly what I just did and say like, oh, I don't want it past this height and I want it to scale like cover, what are the ways that I could do that in a way that still makes my images look good no matter where they're cropped? So that's a question that I definitely have, if I can edit this post and create a focus point to make sure that that always gets included. And I don't think that I have that ability. So that's something to think about in the future, that if we are going to be cropping and changing featured images, that we might want to be able to define a focus point or a place that is important for that featured image so that it doesn't get cropped funny. Because I know that's always been a theme by theme issue that I've had with different WordPress themes. All right, so I'm on to task 2. Describe what you would like to see. How would you like to see OpenVerse or the WordPress photo directory in integrated into the experience? I'm going to go away from my demo site to my actual portfolio site that I use, which is on WordPress, because I think we have some good models that are already in the WordPress ecosystem. For example, I have this website is already integrated, where I can add an image and if I click on select image, there are plugins that can add both from the media library but also from integrations. I think that if OpenVerse were a tool in this list, that would be extremely useful, and I would use that feature. If OpenVerse were included on that list, one of the things that I would hope for is just like this one, I have my search bar here. I find the OpenVerse filters to be extremely helpful, where I can filter by license. And if that was integrated in here, where instead of looking at an outside service, I was looking at the OpenVerse's search, I would hope that being able to filter by license would still be available to me. One of the reasons why is when I'm looking for a featured image, I often like to go with a Creative Commons 0. That way I don't have to attribute for the featured image, just because it's going to be used in so many places around my site. Knowing that I don't have to attribute back on every single page, that is useful to me. Um, one of the questions down here that was interesting to me was, how would you feel about using an image where attribution information couldn't be removed? What would you think about an image where you cannot make significant changes? First of all, I would hope that if there was an image that we couldn't make significant changes to, I would hope that it was only because the license did not allow significant changes. For example, if a no derivatives image were used, I could understand why you wouldn't want me to crop or edit that. However, I think we should look in and maybe talk to Creative Commons themselves and ask them whether cropping an image is a violation of that no derivatives. Because I think that cropping an image especially for light crops, might not be enough to be considered derivative work and be worthy of its own copyright. Now, if there was a very artistic cropping job, I could certainly understand, but I think in general, just a small crop might not be enough to be a newly copyrighted image. What if um, attribution was attached to it? I think we should also be very careful there, because while I would love to see small attribution, like I would love it if on my site, when you hovered over the image, just like you do here on the Openverse, a Creative Commons license were to pop up, perhaps pop up in a way that it would be a clickable link that someone could follow back to the attribution and let that small and subtle link be the attribution back. I wouldn't want to get boxed in to only have one attribution type, especially if that was going to be in the form of like a caption. Because one of the things that the license does is it allows us to attribute in whatever way makes sense for us. And so I might want to attribute an image and a caption. That might work for me on some sites, but I might also want to attribute at the bottom of my post in a list. Maybe I have a very visual post that has 20 images in it, and I want at the very bottom, almost like a footnote, all of the images attributed at the bottom. So I think that I'm not in general opposed to having attribution connected to an image, especially if it makes it easy for end users who might not understand the licenses as well. I would want us to be thoughtful about it and maybe have 2 or 3 options that the end user could do. Like, oh yeah, attribute right in the caption. Oh, attribute at the bottom of the page, and be able to do that. Um, that's overall my thoughts on the experience right here. I think I understand a little bit better why my background image for my post came out the way it did. And I think that was just due to naming conventions inside the template that I was using, which was just a little bit confusing, that this is the header, and then this header template was reused in the header large template. And that's why I got confused. But these things are real hurdles for those of us that are just playing with this new. And notice one of the things I kept talking about was I couldn't get my navigation to appear on the same line. Well, it is appearing in the same line now, but it wasn't in the editor. And I kept trying a couple different things. I couldn't do it. Those are the things that might be difficult for people usability wise. I'm going to stop recording now, but thank you very much for inviting this feedback.